Could I welcome Sharon Jones to the platform? Sharon is here as a patient who's frozen her eggs for non-medical reasons. Sharon.
Thank you. And thank you for this opportunity to provide a viewpoint from a patient, and I hope that I'm able to provide you with some insight to the factors that impacted me as a fertility freezing patient, along with areas where we might be able to make improvements, where we can support, inform and care for women as we move into a new decade in 2020. My egg freezing journey in a simple timeline might look like this. I discovered it in my late 20s. I decided to go ahead of it in my early 30s. And right now, under the 10-year egg freezing, social freezing rule, my eggs will expire and be destroyed if I've not used them when I'm 42. What that doesn't show you is the bumps in the road, the rocky road, and all of the things that came along the way in making that decision. And I'd like to go through some of those with you now. Costs. This was a massive influence in terms of when to make my decision. It was near impossible, and still remains near impossible, to find out how much it will actually cost to invest in trying to preserve your fertility, which is something that is no guarantee and no insurance. How many cycles will I need? How many drugs do I need? What drugs do I need? How many times will I need those drugs? How many times do I have to multiply that to get the budget? Should I donate some eggs, because then they might pay for my egg freezing for free, and all of the questions that come along with that. How do I fund it? The cost came from £5,000 up to £15,000. Should I save some money? That would delay the decision to freeze my eggs, and I was being told to do it sooner would make it a better choice. Do I get a credit card? Do I get a loan? Do I ask for money? And so it goes on. Time, something that's underestimated sometimes in talking to clinicians at clinics, in making discussions with friends and colleagues, and sometimes it's just thought about what time of our life are we at. But there was more than that. When was the right time? When would it be too late? When can I be near a clinic every day so that I can be scanned? When can I know when my period's going to come, because I have irregular periods and always have done? I can't plan my holidays around this. This added another year onto my fertility journey. That then led me to finding out about the egg freezing rule for social egg freezing, which currently in the UK means that we can only freeze our eggs for 10 years socially. I hadn't realised this at the beginning of my journey, and now that it had come to light, I now was in another conundrum. I'd made a decision to freeze my eggs, but now I had information that was telling me, scientifically, and the medical science tells you, the younger you are when you freeze your eggs, the better the quality, the more you're likely to have, and the better chances of you becoming a mother in the future. It's not an insurance, but that's the statistics. However, the egg freezing rule was telling me, but if you do it sooner in life, the earlier in your life, they're going to be destroyed. I found myself going back and forward whether to do it now, whether to wait, whether to do it now, whether to wait. I made a decision, and in January 2018, I started the new year. I'd injured my knee in a ski accident, so the time felt right. I wasn't going anywhere far, and I was near to a clinic. I arrived at the clinic for the nurse to tell me that I had a lovely cyst on my right ovary, something that I hadn't foreseen, and added another obstacle in the way. It wasn't to be a worry, but it was 31 millimetres, and therefore any treatment would make it rupture, burst, and therefore we had to stop. So I then take us here. This is me on day 4 of fertility treatment to freeze my eggs, dressed as the Easter Bunny for the fun of my friends' children and my nieces and nephews. And then this was the excellent day. Just over a week later, I had 24 eggs collected successfully, and 16 of them were successfully frozen. I'd now like to tell you a little bit about the reflections that I've had on that journey, both during treatment and since. My reflections on the journey to freeze include things around the information that I had up front and the information that continues to be provided for women. I recently went to one of the fertility conferences in London and was absolutely overwhelmed with the information. I burst into tears at one point, and I've put all the leaflets in the bottom drawer. I don't want to look at them again. This is coming from somebody who's already gone through the egg freezing process. That is counterbalanced with not having the right information at the right time and enough of it up front. I spent over a year contemplating whether to donate eggs to get some for free, frozen myself. When I rang up, I found out that that no longer existed at the clinic, so I'd spent many meals talking to friends about that and whether it was the right thing when it wasn't a thing anyway. Equally, the egg freezing rule hadn't been made clear to me up front, and I saw patients recently being talked to about the egg freezing as an option to preserve fertility with no clear signposting to that this is something that they might need to consider. Also, I had a few bumps in doing my fertility. My first call to the emergency line was to explain that I think I've not done it right. I'd got the needle out and I'd injected it, but I'd not taken the cap off the needle. I'd just wasted a few quid dripping down my stomach out of the needle. Later on that weekend, I thought that I needed some caniston as a result of the treatment, but I didn't know whether I could use it, and I didn't know whether it would mean I was throwing $5,000 down the line, and as a result, this was all a waste of time. I felt absolutely ridiculous, but so uncomfortable, I made a call to the emergency line once again, probably met with a bit of an eye roll from the lady on call at the other line. It made me realise that actually sometimes it's not emergency support that we need, but what we need is patient care and support and someone that can reassure us and let us know how things are going. Some of the other things that worried me were around assumptions. I went to a few clinics during my journey. A few times I was asked where my partner was and whether they were coming anytime soon. And when you're doing it alone, sometimes it can be quite hard, and most of the time we're strong. But in making these decisions and when we're pumping our body with hormones and we're planning for that, that can be a bit more difficult than you might expect. My reflection on the journey after freezing is, I was told that wonderful news that my eggs had been collected and I'd had 16 frozen while I was coming round from heavy sedation. My friend took me home in a taxi and I started to tell her all of the secrets about boys that I'd been keeping to myself. I definitely wasn't with it. I've not had any contact from the clinic since. I later found a piece of paper typed in Times New Roman font telling me how many I've got in the freezer. I don't know where the freezer is. I don't know whether it's insured. I hope it's still plugged in. I can't remember how many years of storage I paid for. I can't remember. There was too much going on. I probably should make a call and find out, because I do know, as Melanie just said, that we need consent in advance and we need to know when that's happening. If I move address and they can't get hold of me, they're destroyed. I can't remember what I said what should be done with them should I die. There's lots of information and certification that I wish I would have had after that process, including what happened to the ones that didn't make it. How was the process? What did they think? What was good and not good? I don't really know. There's been no real follow-up care. So what's next? This was an image I saw quite a few times on my journey on various social media posts. I hope that one day I will become a mother, perhaps from my own eggs that are in my ovaries right now as I stand and speak to you, perhaps from the ones that I've got frozen. But in the meantime, I want to make sure that all women now, in the future, are able to make informed decisions, and I'm happy to share my journey in terms of how we can make that improvement for patients across the UK. Thank you.